Hello, and thank you everyone for joining us today for our monthly health and wellness webinar, one of our many support offerings here at the Margie Petersen Breast Center at Providence St. John's Health Center. If you're watching this on YouTube and would like to watch our future recordings live, we meet every third Thursday at 11:30 Pacific time, and you can find our Zoom link in the description below box. I am Rebecca Crane-Okada and will be serving as your moderator today. Next slide. We are accompanied by Alston Novak, Administrative Coordinator, who will be serving as our co-host and monitoring the chat. We want to acknowledge our donors who support all of our programs, and today especially the Ken Johnson family in memory of Joan Brierton Johnson. This month, we're so grateful to have Jennifer. Next slide. Jennifer Cumiskey is with the cancer support community here in Los Angeles as clinical supervisor and youth program manager, and she will be talking to us about talking with children about breast cancer. So take it away, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here with you all today. I want to just start off by sharing a little bit about Cancer Support Community Los Angeles as an organization, and then we'll get into that main topic. So CSCLA is a premier nonprofit organization providing vital social and emotional support to families facing cancer. So that's including patients, caregivers, and their loved ones, all at no cost. We serve individuals of all ages, diagnoses, and stages, including end of life and bereavement. And our 5 pillars of support are really what we call our programs and services, and that includes counseling and support groups. We offer both diagnosis and population-specific groups. So, for example, we have a breast cancer group, we have post-treatment groups, we have young adult groups, and then we have groups for like people of color living with cancer, as well as a LGBTQ plus group for people living with cancer. We also have educational workshops similar to what we're doing right now. We offer healthy lifestyle classes, both in person and virtually. So those are things like yoga and Tai Chi. We have social activities such as game nights, and we have a book club that's actually launching, I think, tonight. And we have a child, teen, and family program, and that's for families impacted by cancer with children under age 18. I'm going to share more details about that towards the end of the seminar, but let's go ahead and get into the topic. So we all know that a cancer diagnosis can significantly disrupt a family's life. And while the focus is naturally turned toward the person with the illness, it's important to remember that every family member is affected, especially children. So today I want to focus specifically on the child's experience. Often children's needs are unintentionally overlooked because the emotional and physical demands of supporting the person with cancer take center stage. And in some cases, adults may choose to shield children from the reality of what's happening because they believe that they're protecting them. But avoiding the topic or keeping secrets about the cancer can actually increase children's anxiety and confusion. So today we'll discuss how to have honest and age-appropriate conversations that support children's well-being. So here's an overview of what we'll cover. First, we'll talk about what kids understand about cancer at different developmental stages. Then we'll explore why it's important to talk openly with them. I'll give tips for answering common questions and share practical ways to support children. And then I'll leave you with resources that you can use, and hopefully we'll have some time for questions as well. So we're going to discuss generally what children understand at different times of their life, while remembering that every child is different, even siblings living under the same roof, right? So one child may ask endless questions while the other child might not say anything. They might just be silent and, kind of pretend that it's not happening. Some kids might act out, others might withdraw. That's why it's so important to avoid a one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to talking about cancer with kids. As the quote on the slide says, this is coming from a mother and a breast cancer patient. She says, "I feel things need to be approached differently for different kids and personalities. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing, even with siblings. Kids should not be forced to act, feel, etc. a certain way." And this is very true. So I'm going to do my best to give an overview of what generally kids understand at different developmental stages, but keep in mind that every child is different. So starting with babies and toddlers, we're looking at ages 0 to 2 years old. Really, children under age 2 don't understand cancer, right? But they can sense when something is off. They do have some awareness of changes in behavior and emotions from caregivers. They notice when there has been a disruption in their day-to-day routines, especially. Some of the common behaviors and feelings listed here will sound familiar to anyone who's had a child this age, but what I want to highlight is that they're presenting with more of these behaviors. So there might be bigger tantrums, more changes in eating or sleeping habits than usual. There's more intense separation anxiety or more clinginess, and those might be indications that they're reacting to the stress in their environment. For the preschool years, right, we're looking at ages 3 to 5 years old. These kids may understand the idea of being sick, like having a cold, but they can't grasp serious illness like cancer. So at this age, they can present with some magical thinking, which means they might believe that they somehow caused cancer by being bad. So maybe they misbehaved, and that's what caused their parent to get cancer. In regard to common feelings and behaviors, you may see regression, meaning they'll act younger than they are. So, for example, if you have a child that may already be potty trained, they might start having accidents again. You might also notice short and intense emotional outbursts. Children this age may also repeatedly ask the same questions over and over again related to cancer as they're really trying to understand. Again, there may be more separation anxiety and clinginess. You might also see them playing or acting out themes related to going to the doctor or being sick. Looking at school age children, 6 to 8 years old, children at this age are starting to grasp that cancer is more serious than an illness like a cold, but they may still have some misconceptions about what cancer actually is. For example, they may think it's contagious like a cold is. You might also continue to see some of that magical thinking, again, meaning that they believe their actions caused the illness. Behaviorally, you might continue to see regression or worry or fear about the person who's sick, or worrying that others might get sick. Kids this age might continue to experience separation anxiety. They may ask more questions or act out or play things related to illness. So they're trying to make sense of what's happening. This is also an age where anger may appear, especially if routines are disrupted or they have to miss a special event because their parent is sick. Some children may even withdraw from a sick parent, not out of lack of care, but due to fear or uncertainty about how to act around them. Now, continuing with school age children, ages 9 to 12 years old. So, children in this age range generally have a basic understanding of cancer. They've likely heard of it before and may even know someone who has been affected. But despite this familiarity, there can still be misinformation. So, they might have inaccurate beliefs about what causes cancer or how it spreads. We have magical thinking here again. It might still be present. Again, believing that they may have caused the illness somehow. Behaviorally and emotionally, you'll notice some carryover from younger ages, like the worry or fear. However, children at this stage may start to hide their feelings from family or friends. Rather than openly expressing the sadness or fear, they might act out in anger, and that anger can sometimes be directed at family members. Another emotion that might appear in this age group is embarrassment. So children might feel self-conscious that their parent or family member is sick and worry that their family situation sets them apart from their peers. And this can lead to withdrawal or reluctance to talk about the illness at all. We're looking at the teenage years, so 13 to 18 years old. By this time, most adolescents have a basic understanding of cancer, and many are familiar with some of the medical terminology. However, even at this stage, misinformation can still persist, so it's important not to assume that they know everything accurately. Teens are starting to think more deeply about life and even death and meaning. And so they might be open to conversations on these more abstract topics. And if they're ready for these conversations, they can be really powerful and meaningful. Emotionally, teens are often dealing with conflicting needs. So they crave independence, but they also might want to stay close to their family during times of stress or uncertainty. So this push-pull dynamic is completely normal. In terms of behavior, again, teens may hide their feelings or express them through anger or frustration, which can often be directed at family members. They may react strongly to disruptions in their routine, like in younger years. They may also struggle with this loss of control over their environment, especially when they're looking for more independence. So now that we've reviewed how children and teens typically understand cancer, as well as some of those common behaviors and emotions to look out for, let's shift our focus to the question of how to actually talk to kids about cancer. As I mentioned before, many adults worry that bringing up cancer is going to be too scary or overwhelming for children, so they might try to protect them by avoiding the topic altogether. However, what we found is that children are very perceptive. If you have kids, you might experience this yourself already. They usually can sense when something's wrong. So when adults choose not to talk about it, children often fill in the blanks themselves, which can lead to more anxiety or misinformation. This is why being open and honest in developmentally appropriate ways can really help children feel included and reassured and just more secure. It's not about giving every detail, but about giving them enough truth to help them make sense of what's happening so they don't feel like something is being hidden from them. So let's talk more specifically about how we can talk about cancer with our kids. So before starting a conversation with a child about cancer, it's important to first prepare yourself. So think about the kinds of questions your child might ask and how you'll respond, not only with words, but emotionally too. This conversation may be emotionally difficult for you, and that's completely normal and okay. Um, and be aware that children might not respond immediately to what you share. Sometimes they're quiet, sometimes they won't ask any questions, and that's normal too. You can let them know that you're available whenever they're ready to talk and just leave that door open for future conversations. You also might want to consider the timing and the setting, right? This is going to be important. So choose a time when the child is not tired or hungry or stressed. And when you can talk to them without any distractions. So avoid some of those high stress moments like just before bed or just before school. Sometimes it helps to talk when you're not face to face, like during a car ride or while taking a walk. These types of moments can feel more natural and less intense for both you and the child. When you start to have a conversation, just make sure you're using clear and simple language. So you'll want to avoid euphemisms and consider using the child's own words, or there are so many great books written for children to help explain what cancer is and what changes to expect. Children's books can be a great tool for making complex topics like cancer more understandable. Um, if the topic feels too hard to talk about at first, that's okay. Just being present and emotionally available is important. Sometimes just creating that sense of safety and calm allows a child to open up when they're ready. There's also a few key messages to communicate clearly that I have listed here. Number one is cancer is not their fault, right? This kind of goes back to magical thinking again. Many children worry that they did something to cause it. So reassure them that this is absolutely not the case. Number two, any question is okay. So let them know they can ask anything and you're going to do your best to answer them honestly. And number three, cancer is not contagious, right? So especially now in a post-COVID world, kids may have heightened fears about illness spreading. Remind them that it's not unsafe to be near someone who has cancer. And finally, like I said before, keep the lines of communication open. Even if nothing new has come up or happened, check in with your child from time to time. because this just allows them to feel comforted and reassured that you're not hiding anything and that it's safe to ask questions or express feelings whenever they need to. All right, so we're going to look at some common questions and tips for answering. So when discussing cancer with children, there are certain questions that tend to come up quite frequently, and it's helpful to prepare your responses in advance, keeping in mind that every child is unique and at different developmental stages. So your answers should be tailored accordingly. Again, thinking about using simple language, something that's really clear and easy to understand. Like I said earlier, books about this can be really helpful to use, and I'm happy to send over some resources as well. I've got a great list of books. But number one, what is cancer? So you want to explain simply that the body is made up of cells, which are usually healthy, but sometimes unhealthy cells grow too much, and that is what cancer is. You can mention where the cancer is located if you want to, such as the breast or the lungs, depending on the situation. Uh, the second question, can I catch cancer? This is a very common worry for children, so make sure to reassure them cancer is not contagious, unlike the cold or the flu. They cannot catch it from someone else. So it's okay to be close to a family member who has cancer. Number three, what are chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery? So these terms might seem scary to kids. So it's important to explain them simply. So you can say something like chemotherapy is medicine that attacks the cancer cells, but it can cause side effects like feeling sick or tired. And radiation is like a special kind of X-ray that targets cancer cells, but it also might make the person tired. And surgery is when a doctor, we can say a doctor removes the part of the body with the cancer. Also mention that sometimes people have just one treatment, and other times a combination. Another common question, especially when somebody is receiving chemotherapy, is why is someone losing their hair, right? So hair loss happens because treatment can affect healthy cells too, including those that make hair. You can reassure your child that hair usually grows back eventually, right? It's temporary. Number five, do people with cancer die? What will happen? These questions are really difficult. There isn't one right answer. It really just depends on the situation, depends on the age of your child. But generally, it's best to be honest, but keep a hopeful tone, right? So explaining that many people live with cancer and doctors are working really hard to help. Can also reassure children about their own safety and who will care for them if their parent or caregiver is sick. A lot of times new caregivers or other support people are introduced, during a time when a parent might be in treatment, or, going through their cancer experience. So it's great to be clear about who is going to care for a child when the parent or caregiver is not available. And number six, can I talk about cancer with friends or teachers? So families vary in how much they want to share about their cancer experience. Some children might feel comfortable talking about it, while others might feel they need to keep it a secret. So even if the family prefers privacy, it's helpful for children to have at least one or two trusted people outside the family, like a friend or a neighbor or a teacher who they can also talk to. Here are some tips and tools for helping your child. So as we've discussed, open communication is really key. Even when there's no new information to share, regular check-ins can be really comforting for a child. It lets them know you're available and that nothing is being hidden from them. It's also important to share and validate feelings. So you can do this by expressing your own feelings in an appropriate way. For example, you can say something like, it's okay to cry or feel angry, right? You can tell me how you're feeling. That helps normalize their emotions and encourages them to open up. Children really look to adults to understand how to react to difficult situations. So when adults are calm and honest, children tend to feel more secure. Another big piece that we touched on a bit is maintaining routine. While this can be hard, especially around treatment or doctor's appointments, keeping daily structure helps provide a sense of normalcy and stability when everything else can feel really unpredictable. Along these same lines, trying to stick to the rules and boundaries you've already set, it can be tempting to loosen limits during stressful times, but consistency actually helps children feel safe. So maintaining the routines, sticking to the rules can actually be really beneficial for a child. Um, you might also consider allowing the child to help if they want to, right? This gives them some sense of control and contribution. It could be something simple like setting the table at dinner time or picking up their room. Just be careful to not let them take on too much. We want to make sure that they still have time and space to just be a kid. And we don't want them to start taking on like a parentified role. And finally, stay connected with their school. So even if your family prefers privacy, it can be very helpful to let a trusted teacher or a counselor just know what's going on with the family. That way they can provide support to the child and let you know if they're seeing any behavior changes at school, right? Like if they're visiting the nurse's office or if they're falling asleep in class, it can be helpful to have somebody else looking out for those changes. And now here's a little bit of information about when to consider seeking outside support. So while many children cope well with support from loved ones, it's important to watch out for some concerning behaviors that might signal they need additional help. Some of those red flags include extreme changes in behavior, such as shifts in sleep or eating patterns, sudden mood swings, or acting out more than usual. You might also notice the child is withdrawing from friends or family or isolating themselves more than normal. School-related issues can also be another indicator. So maybe they're misbehaving in class, or their grades are dropping, or teachers are reporting changes in the child's behavior. Another sign is loss of interest in things they used to enjoy. For example, if your child used to love drawing, now maybe they just avoid it completely. It's worth paying attention to. And most seriously, if a child ever expresses a desire to hurt themselves or someone else, that's a clear signal to seek professional help immediately. That said, you don't have to wait until things become serious to seek support. It can be incredibly helpful for a child to talk to a professional even before these concerns arise. And just having that extra outlet to process those feelings can make a big difference. So that leads me to Cancer Support Community's Child, Teen, and Family program. So we have our own separate programming for families with children under the age of 18. Right, remember, it's free social and emotional support to provide safe space for kids and teens to connect and find support and learn coping skills and have fun with other peers who are going through a similar experience when there's cancer in the family. So our children and teens affected by cancer include those with a pediatric diagnosis, children with a family member with cancer, and children who are bereaved. All are welcome in that sense. And here's a little bit more specifically about our program. Some of the options and services that we have are creating connections for kids and teens groups. So several times throughout the year, we offer an 8-week series of online groups for children and teens who, again, either have cancer or have a loved one with cancer. These groups provide kids a space where they can connect with their peers and share their experiences and just really feel supported. The focus is really about building friendships, emotional support, and helping kids just feel less alone during challenging times, like when there's cancer in the family. We also have a support group for parents of children with pediatric cancer, parents who themselves have cancer, and parents who have a co-parent living with cancer. That group meets online the first and third Tuesday of every month from 4 to 5 p.m. We also offer short-term counseling for children and teens, both in person and virtually. That's up to 8 sessions at no cost. We host quarterly educational workshops. We have a monthly virtual family fun night. It's open to the entire family to participate. We usually do an activity or a game or both. These family fun nights are every second Tuesday of the month from 5 to 6 p.m. And then throughout the year, we host in-person social events for families. I just want to highlight 2 really wonderful resources offered by Cancer Support Community that can be incredibly helpful for individuals and families impacted by cancer. First is this Cancer Support Helpline. It's a free service staffed by licensed professionals who are available to offer emotional support, answer questions. They really help navigate the practical challenges of a cancer diagnosis. The helpline is available 7 days a week, and it provides support both in English and Spanish. And then the second resource I have here is Open to Options. It's a decision support counseling program. It's especially helpful before a major medical appointment or treatment decision. So a trained counselor can really help you clarify what your goals are, what your values are, and questions that you can ask your medical team so that you can go into your appointments feeling prepared and confident. It's designed to help people communicate effectively with their healthcare team and just make informed decisions about their treatment. This is also open to English speakers and Spanish speakers. Both of these are free and part of Cancer Support Community's mission to ensure that no one faces cancer alone. Okay, and then I have some information about how you can contact us at CSCLA or get connected with us. If you have any questions related to today's presentation or about our Child, Teen, and Family program, please feel free to email me. My email address is up there. And if you're interested in joining our community, the best way to get started is to visit our website, or you can scan the QR code there, or send us an email, and we can provide you with all those steps to get registered, start receiving some of that support that we offer. And that's all that I have. I'll throw it back to you, Rebecca.
Any questions from the group? Thank you, Jennifer. That was a great presentation.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions, but I want to see if anyone else has questions. While we're on the subject, how would people reach this nationally if they're not local to Los Angeles?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Cancer Support Community is a national organization. So we are the Los Angeles chapter here. We can serve anybody in our clinical services, which are counseling and our support groups. Anybody in California can access those, but anybody nationwide can utilize like our healthy lifestyle programs that are virtual and our educational webinars and workshops. So the best way to get connected again is to go to our website, cancersupportla.org, and register there. Because we are a national organization, though, we have over 190 locations now across the US. So you can also go to cancersupportcommunity.org. That is the main organization hub, and see if there is a local cancer support community near where you live, because that's where you can access more of those clinical services like the support groups or counseling if that's what you're looking for. There also are places called Gilda's Club. They are part of Cancer Support Community. We merged early in the 2000s, and some have just not changed their name to Cancer Support Community. So Gilda's Club is the same thing. They're wonderful as well. I think there's more Gilda's Clubs like on the East Coast.
Thank you. I have two more questions. One is, because we're talking about breast cancer here, and genetics may play a part in this, and I think there is more talk in the world about people who've had breast cancer, but breasts are also a personal part. How do you guide parents talking with their children about breast cancer specifically, and when that may be a very private part of the body that one doesn't share with their children? And how do you guide them in talking about genetics and family history?
Yeah, that's a great question. Really great question. So again, I mean, going back to just being open and honest, even, knowing it's uncomfortable and it could be something that feels very private. I think the more honest that we are with our kids, the better. And letting, in explaining different parts of the body and what they're for. And in terms of genetics and whatnot, I think encouraging parents to really, I think it depends on the age, right? Of course, and what's developmentally appropriate, but if possible, informing them, more seriously about like what breast cancer is, how it impacts the family, how it can be passed down. Again, even it's scary, but there are screenings available. There are a lot of different trials, right? gosh, we just had a really wonderful event here, which I'll send you the information for. Anybody is welcome to attend with the Tiger Lily Foundation. That's all about genetic testing and trials that are coming up for breast cancer. But again, being really honest with them, there are also so many wonderful resources out there where there are like child development specialists who can help parents prepare to have these conversations and also be a support to them. One of the organizations that we work closely with who really does this is called Wonders and Worries. They're also national. I would highly recommend checking them out because they can provide that individual support as well.
I think for some of the women that we have who have teenage daughters, this is probably the hardest conversation, teenage and young adult, because I think they're very aware of their potential personal risk and want to know. And sometimes we don't know.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of where my question is in this, but I just want to share, I'm a nurse navigator at the breast center, and I do try to engage with patients who, just to see if they have children, what ages they are and all that. And the parents who express that they haven't told their kids, I try to have these conversations with them about, just suggesting that they do. And is there anything that, we can do to support them in communicating this to their children? But I feel like in my experience, the patients who have decided that they're not going to tell their kids are just so shut down, and they're like, no, 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 I can't, I can't, I can't. Like it's their own coping and not wanting to burden their children. And I try to find that some kind of balance between respecting their space but also really trying to encourage them without sounding pushy, and that it's just really hard.
Absolutely. It's a really hard balance and it's a really hard thing to navigate because it can feel so scary and overwhelming. And right, we want to protect our children and we think we are protecting them by not sharing the scary things. But,
Yeah.
as I said, children are really perceptive. They know when something's wrong. They might not know exactly what is wrong, but something is off and they can feel it. And especially if you do start noticing them acting out, right, or some of those behaviors, those developmentally in the development stages, those specific behaviors, they're responding to stress in their environment and they're trying to make sense of what's happening. And honesty is just the best policy, even when it's so hard and it can feel so devastating.
Yeah, agreed. I appreciated that you mentioned, don't change the rules at home, especially for those school-aged kids. Like there's so much about the rules and the structure, even if they kind of rebel against it sometimes, they really appreciate having things that are predictable at home. So yeah, so important.
And I have another question for you. In your slide about younger children playing and acting out themes related to illness, can you give a couple of examples? I think I know, but I'd like to hear what you can say about that.
Yeah, so that's actually something that we don't necessarily discourage. We actually encourage it. And if a parent can get involved with playing in that, making sure that you're providing, accurate information, there's like medical play. So, gosh, there's another organization that we work closely with who we love is called Bright Spot Network. And they have what they call a teddy bear clinic. So they take a teddy bear and they use toys that are like, with the medical instruments in checking the different parts of the body on the bear and, administering blood tests and whatnot. So it helps, familiarize kids with what's actually happening when their parent is going to the doctors. And it helps, again, maybe make it feel a little bit less scary and just feel less confusing. And they, can have a better understanding over it when they have something that is age appropriate that they can really act out. So I think the only time that it does become, problematic is when there's that misinformation piece, right? When it's not totally accurate. So we can encourage play and we can play along with our kids in that and just making sure again that it is age appropriate and it's accurate.
Thank you. Any other questions? Can you flip to the next slide, please?
I had a quick question.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, I know you've kind of said over and over, like honesty is very important and being upfront and everything. And I just wanted to know, like, how do you balance that with any medical, treatment? Some are going to be a little more straightforward, but some there are going to be such like peaks and valleys of uncertainty and things changing.
Mhm.
Is there, how do you make those decisions? Do you have any advice for being open and honest without necessarily, you know, what I don't even know quite how to ask the question, but like how to be as honest as possible while also like balancing the sometimes stuff is going to be changing day to day or hour to hour, and I don't want to freak a kid out with that uncertainty
Yeah.
either.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great question. And I think, and this is going to sound so repetitive again, but I think even being honest about not knowing, right? When things are uncertain. Um, and I know that's hard to say, not just to kids, but to anybody. I don't know is a hard thing to say, right? But I think that it is important because there is so much unknown with cancer and with illness, right? We don't always quite know how things are going to progress or play out. But I think what's important with kids is reassuring them that when I have an answer, I will let you know. I will tell you, or I'm going to look into that, or I'm going to try my best to keep you informed with all the information that I have. Right. And again, there are so many really wonderful books out there that can help with language, especially like age-appropriate language, depending on the developmental stage. I'd be happy to share. I can send those resources along to Rebecca and Alston if you'd like.
That would be lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Can you just turn to the next slide and
Yeah.
we'll close. So I want to thank you for a great presentation today, and for those of you who are here. For those of you online watching this, not live, if you'd like to see more of our health and wellness recordings, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll find our previous health and wellness recordings there, as well as several webinars on our website. And you have our phone number here if you want to come visit us as a patient. We are on Instagram also as MPBC Breasties if you'd like to follow us there. And you can follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn in St. John's Cancer Institute. So thank you again for being here.